All right, super controversial mistake, or rather point of confusion. RDL versus SLDL, stiff-legged deadlift versus Romanian deadlift. Okay, it turns out that when the Romanians invented the Romanian deadlift, a bunch of people all over the world were already doing that exact same exercise. They just called it the stiff-legged deadlift. But some folks were impressed that the Romanians were doing this exercise and they were like, hey, that's a new thing, and it just started being called that. Turns out it wasn't new. But there is. Next mistake on the stiff-legged deadlift is one that's committed on a bunch of exercise. It's not having a consistent range of motion rep to rep to rep. The big problem with that is you don't know how much stimulus you're imposing, and also you don't know how to track all of your progress. If you say I did 315 pounds for 3 sets of 8 in the stiff-legged deadlift last week, well, like, yeah, 3 sets of 8, what? Like, one was a half rep, one was a full rep, one was an extra credit super deep rep, and if you do 320 pounds this week for 3 sets of 8, did you really get stronger? Did you really progress? Well, maybe the reps were cut short. You need a standardized way to do the reps. So here's what it looks like if you don't have a standardized. Jared, might do 1 rep in some kind of fashion. Okay, he says, okay, that's, pretty decent, wed to mid shin on that one. And then the other one, he may be like, oh, I don't know, stopped at the knees. And then he's like, fuck, I feel bad about that. So he's gonna go all the way down and, I'm gonna go all the way down to the last position. How many reps is that? Who the hell knows? The best way to do it is to standardize your technique. Going all the way down to the ground is a very good idea. So Jared's gonna touch the ground every time. Notice there's no lower back rounding. His knees are very stable. So every time he gently touches the ground and comes all the way up, that's a rep. Do you have to do that? No. Jared, can you demonstrate just to the knees? So Jared's not gonna be super flexible. He's gonna go to his knees and come back up. And then he's gonna go to his knees again, and he's gonna come back up. If that's the case, go ahead and rack. If that's in fact the case of how flexible he is, that's totally fine. So pick a position, whether it's mid-shin, whether you can see yourself in the mirror or not. Maybe you can put some plates down, or if you're flexible enough, put the 45s or even less, even smaller plates, whatever you need to hit where you hit, right around where you feel that awesome painful stretch. That way, all you need to focus on is making sure your positioning is good. When to come up is something that wherever you touch will let you know. Power racks are great for that sort of thing. Highly, highly recommended to have an end stopper. Yeah, you can totally do stiff-legged deadlifts just by aiming to hit mid-shin or aiming to have a mind-muscle connection and tell yourself, okay, ooh, that's when the tension is coming, great. But I think once you find that point with free weight, with no stopper, work in such a way that a rack or plates or something, some boxes in which you have a stopper, and look, if you get super flexible after several months, the stopper's too high, you could always lower it.
Doing this on the screen. I've gotten as heavy as doing 425 pounds for sets of 8, which is pretty good for me. And that was from like a 4 to 5 inch deficit, give or take. Now, when you first do this exercise, you're probably not gonna have the mobility to do it from that kind of a deficit. In fact, you may need to start with just a basic RDL and work your way up to doing this on a 2-inch deficit, then a 3, and then eventually a 4-inch deficit. Now, the reason why this movement is badass is because it's mobility, stability, and strength in all in one. So this will mobilize your posterior chain into what we call a deep hip flex position. It will give you strength in your lumbar extensors to stay rigid during a heavy pull, and it will give you a ton of glute strength and hamstring strength for hip extension power in your deadlift. Now, what it does specifically is it kind of removes your quads and some of the other movers that kind of help out your deadlift and makes this very demanding on the low back to stay rigid and the hamstrings and glutes to fire through. So let me
round. Look at that 650. That thing flew. I could have done that for 5 reps right there. I know the strength is here for 750. This 705 also flew, but I could feel actually my grip opening a little bit there. You can see that hand. Look, you see that hand opening there? And I knew it. I knew the grip wasn't fully there, but I went for this. And the thing that actually stopped me is, you're going to see it in slow motion after, I kind of set the bar too low in my fingers. Now, contrary to what everyone tells you on a deadlift bar, you want to grip deep in the palm. If you watch the strongest deadlifters on a deadlift bar who use a mixed grip, everyone from Dan Green to Herbie to all the main pullers out there, you grip deep in the palm. You don't do a fingertip grip more like they do in the USAPL on the stiff bar. So you can see I was really upset. cussing like crazy. That was such a hard miss because the strength was absolutely there. In fact, this only really got slow because my back rounded a little bit, yeah, but I really just could feel my grip giving out on the way up. So I was trying to slow down and trying to correct everything I needed to correct to try to hold on and inch this out, but I just couldn't do it. And so what we're going to show you is what I'm doing to address my grip here.